So how do they follow up Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island? Tim Curry and lots of anime vibes.
This is evil's finest hour!
And the Hex Girls.
And I'm gonna put a spell on you.
Yeah, this one's got a lot going for it, so let's talk about Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. So I don't have as much nostalgia for this one as I do some of the other 90s direct-to-video movies, so I'm coming at this one with fresher eyes, uninfluenced by the memories of my childhood. And it's pretty not bad. We pick it up with the Scooby Gang right before solving yet another mystery, and honestly, with the way the shadows are used and the more somber tone, we get some serious Batman the Animated Series vibes. Which leads us into a chase right before they unmask the guy and lock in the answers to the mystery.
Well, at least he didn't call us kids. I hate that.
In which leads them to meet a famous and renowned horror mystery writer, Ben Ravencroft, whom Velma cannot get enough of.
In my opinion, are the best horror stories ever written.
Thanks.
Ben Ravencroft is a huge fan of Mystery Inc. and invites them to visit his hometown of Oak Haven, Massachusetts. And the montage of them getting there is wildly gorgeous. I could look at this art for days, and paired with the music, you are given immediate reason to love and care for what happens here. And what is happening here is an autumn festival. But there's just one problem. This place is haunted. Sorta, kinda, but not really, but yeah. So let's talk about it. For the first 2/3 of the movie, the gang needs to solve a ghost mystery. Apparently, when constructing a new part of the town called Puritan Village for the Autumn Fest, they constructed over the grave of Sarah Ravencroft, who was an alleged witch in the 1600s that was executed by the Puritan people. She's also Ben Ravencroft's ancestor. Now Ben works very hard to make sure everyone knows she was in fact a Wiccan and not a witch. So she would use natural herbs and such to heal people. He's also incredibly obsessive about her journal that apparently will clear her name of witchcraft. But we'll get to that a little later. In the meantime, the town and particularly the Scooby Gang have paranormal encounters with Sarah's ghost. However, that ghost leaves behind clues that imply that perhaps there's less para about the normal about her. And it is indeed the townspeople who put on an elaborate PR stunt to bring in more visitors for the festival. Basically, the Scooby Gang is getting to the bottom of how amusement park engineers make special effects. So the way the first 2 acts of this movie go is like a really well-made 40-minute episode of Scooby-Doo, but then we get to the 3rd act that, by God, goes so hard. It turns out it was all part of a ruse put on by Ben Ravencroft, so the Scooby Gang would eventually help him find Sarah's journal, in which in fact is not a journal, but a spell book, which means that Sarah indeed was a witch. And Ben uses this spellbook to become an evil warlock to gain power to resurrect Sarah from the dead and rule the world by her side. And if that sounds insane, it's because it is. And what makes it even more so is the fact that the film plants information and clues in the first 2/3 of this movie that make this an inevitable outcome. And that is just, chef's kiss to the writers.
It was great, especially those last 12 pies.
And if you knew that Ben Ravencroft is voiced by Tim Curry, you could have guessed that this is where it was gonna go. By no means is that a bad thing. In fact, I think it makes it even better, because how can you go wrong with Tim Curry playing a villain, right?
Why? Because of you meddling kids. Hey, we're not kids.
Now, if you're wondering how the Hex Girls really fit into all of this, they were hired by the townspeople to perform at the Autumn Fest, and they are used by the filmmakers as a red herring for the ghost mystery at the first part of the movie. And we find out that the lead singer, Thorn, is 1/16th Wiccan, which means that she's the only one who can read from the spellbook and banish the real Sarah Ravencroft from which she came. And they do not pull any punches in this part of the movie in the slightest. Just when you think things can't get any worse for the characters, I assure you that they in fact do. A giant evil turkey and my absolute favorite, the screaming pumpkins. Just like in Zombie Island, it is the last third of this movie that we are hit with huge anime vibes. Between Ben gaining power and doing impressive backflips to everything that is happening here, you really don't have to wonder too much what a Scooby-Doo anime would be like. You do get some low-key anime vibes earlier in the movie, but this is definitely stronger here. So now I'd like to talk about the voice cast, as I didn't really touch on that in previous reviews, and I love the voice cast for this Scooby Gang so much. Let's start with Frank Welker. He is the voice of Fred Jones. He always has been, even from the start, and he defined the character and set a precedence for how the character is and how he should be.
You've been reading too many of your own horror stories, Ravencroft.
BJ Ward as Velma has the perfect texture to her voice for an over-analytical bookworm.
And that scene at the end where the caretaker's flesh dissolved was so brilliant.
Oh, look, we're here.
Already?
Mary Kay Bergman, rest her soul, was the perfect Daphne. Everything she said and the way she said it added so much to her character and really gave her deeper layers.
So, Freddy, why do you always pair us up?
Well...
Finally, Scott Innes nails it as Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. At first, I had no idea it was the same guy, and that's because he portrays them both so incredibly well.
With all that running, we worked off that big meal. But you know, now I'm hungry again. Ree-roo.
Personally, I like the Shaggy a little bit more than I like the Billy West Shaggy, which is what we got in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Billy West couldn't come back for this one because he got caught up in a little show you may have heard of. Overall, this may not be my favorite 90s Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movie, however, it's still incredibly solid. It takes a little time to build up to that wild third act, but when it gets there, it keeps going, and honestly, even throughout the entire runtime of this movie, it never stops being entertaining and giving you stuff to love, and for that, another chef's kiss. So that's all I have for you today. Be sure to follow me along as we continue to go through every animated Scooby-Doo movie of all time ever, and let me know in the comment section below if you've seen this movie and what you thought about it. I would love to chit chat about it, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic day and thank you so much for watching.